Welcome to the show. I'm Kayode Okikelu. June the 15th, well, will be meaning a lot of things right now because it's the day after, well, depending on your time zone, for us right here, it's the day after the deal was struck between Iran and Israel. Now, this war, which has been described by a lot of people as either needless, an escalation too far, or, punishing the world for just the actions of a few countries. Whatever the case is, this started February the 28th, 2026, and we can confirm to you that a deal has now been struck between U.S. and Iran. The Pakistan Prime Minister said the U.S. and Iran declared immediate and permanent termination of military operations on all fronts, including in Lebanon. And we understand that an official signing ceremony will take place in Switzerland on June the 19th. Well, President Trump had earlier said that the deal with the Islamic Republic of Iran is now complete. Incidentally, we're just talking about this on his 80th birthday, even though there was another fight on his birthday. That's, by the way, this one was a UFC fight. But we can confirm to you that that is what we have right now. And in that particular tweet, well, not a tweet actually, it was a post on the president's Truth Social, that's the US president's Truth Social. It says, I hereby fully authorize the toll-free opening of the Strait of Hormuz.
Well, I was hoping you were going to complete it.
I was going to leave that for you.
Okay. Well, the President of the United States goes on to say that I hereby fully authorize the toll-free opening of the Strait of Hormuz and simultaneously herewith authorize the immediate removal of the United States naval blockade, ships of the world, start your engines, typical of Donald J. Trump. Let the oil flow, President Donald J. Trump. And well, I guess that concludes, even though with still some gray areas, what appears to have been a long-drawn battle between allies, United States and Israel on the one hand, and on the other hand, Iran. And of course, Lebanon came into the mix as well during the last couple of months amid this war. But what do we know about the agreement, or what do we not know? What is unclear is the future of Iran as far as nuclear weapons enrichment and building program would be. And the president going on to authorize the opening of the Strait of Hormuz. We know that the strait is running through, borders, territorial water areas of Iran and Oman. I wonder what their position on that would be. But of course, we also know that, international allies, the United Kingdom, Italy, France have also canvassed the unconditional opening of the Strait of Hormuz. While, the big powers appear to have, reached a fair agreement on this, what happens? Will there be an apology to the rest of the world for the hardship, the weight on the economy, the impact on the economies of the world amid this last couple of months following the closure of that international waterways where oil, transits from to other parts of the world? Jeffrey, I'm sure that you have very interesting talking points.
Well, I always look at the market, how the market is reacting to all of this. It's great to see that there's a deal. So this may be another record because from my analytics I did, 2014, it took about a year for when geopolitics of this nature happened to push the oil prices above $100. It took like almost a year for it to taper. And then the next one, I think, was around 2022 or so, during the incidents in Ukraine and Russia. It took about 5 months. So now if you calculate March, April, May, June, so about 4 months. So we may not, let's see how it goes, but this is good news as far as the market is concerned. Donald Trump himself saying he's authorized the opening of Strait of Hormuz. I don't know whether he has the authority because he didn't block it in the first place. He blocks where he could block. It is the Iranian, because the Strait of Hormuz is somewhere in between Oman and UAE and then borders the southern part of Iran. But what gives confidence is the fact that he has authorized the U.S. Navy to stop the double blockade. They blocked the strait, and the Iranian blocked the strait directly, and then the American military blocked after the straits to block every Iranian vessel trying to get out of the Strait of Hormuz. So it's good news. The market is responding. Stocks are rising. Oil prices is tanking or dropping in this sense, almost 4-5% this morning. Sharp drop, but of course this will weaken the US dollar as well. That's the way the market reacts and all of this. Safe havens like investments in commodities like gold would naturally go up because they have like an opposite reaction to how this plays out. But the whole of today is going to tell us how this will simmer through. I don't think we've heard from Iran yet, so I don't know whether we've heard
the Deputy Foreign Minister.
Foreign Minister, okay, I haven't seen the ulti.
Gary Babadi confirmed in a telephone call that a deal with the US has been finalized. Basically, the same thing that the Pakistani Prime Minister said. A deal has been finalized, and the official signing will happen in Switzerland on Friday. But you know the tricky thing? There is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday before we get to Friday.
So definitely
it's going to be a very long wait.
Yeah, and you know, the United States president is also saying something about if there's any breach that the United States will resume military aggression yet again. And so we're watching that very closely to look at how world powers will react to any untoward reaction from any side of the party amid this agreement that has now been reached. We hope that there's no resumption of aggression in the coming days. But Jeffrey, you were talking about markets earlier on. I'm wondering, now that you say that oil prices are tanking, will it have an effect back home in the reduction of the pump price of petrol? So what they say about Nigeria, that what goes up often never comes down.
On this one, I can give you the assurance that this one will have to come down.
Be careful.
Depending if it's sustained. I talked about demand destruction the other time, which is used to describe when a particular price is sustained for a long time, high price sustained, people now begin to look for alternative. That is what has happened to, say, if you see the EV market and all of this, they are coming up because people are now seeking ways, cheaper ways to move around the world or their cities. Friday is a long time. One of the things that drives the market, besides all the fundamentals and technicalities, is sentiment. So the market sentiment as we speak is positive. It's to the fact that, okay, like we have hope on our hands. So if oil prices are coming down, the others, because to affect the US dollars negatively, to even strengthen the Naira, because there are basically like 2-3 things that affect the Naira. For instance, what is happening with our reserve in terms of rebalancing, what is happening with the import substitution, whether the US dollar is taking a hit or it's not taking a hit. All of this affects how the market responds. So I can give you the assurance that if it's sustained and there's no breach, because I feel that this deal was struck because the most strategic objective of the United States was not winning or losing this war, or killing Ayatollah or something, but maybe those were the drivers to make them agree to a deal, was to ensure that Iran doesn't develop nuclear weapon or enrichment, stockpile materials and all of that. I'm sure they got to that point and the US is assured and satisfied. So between now and Friday, as Bukola said, let us hope that nothing changes, nothing untoward happens. If we see this consistent decline, the market will begin to look at it strategically. And because what happens with the price of petrol, it's not as if it's about the premium that is placed on its movement, sometimes that affects the knock-on effect. Yeah. So if this is sustained over time, we should see pump price begin to drop. If it gets to, I think it got to the 70s last night. I mean, 70-something, 79 or...
That's the crude price?
Crude price.
It's just about above 80.
Yeah, above 80, just slightly $80. Above 80. So where we were around 65.
And
we were
at that
oscillating.
Time we were buying petrol for around
776.
$800 per barrel. 800 naira.
We want us to run out of the world.
It's okay, we understand.
We're talking dollar.
Yeah. We got to about 770-something naira at some point, and then we got to about 800-something naira when it was about 65 to around 68. Maybe it spikes to 80. 70. So if it comes down to that point, I don't know how long, because the way the market behaves, it watches with caution and observes. Because people have already loaded, they've moved, they place premium on it and all of that. So we are hoping Today, inflation numbers will be out for Nigeria.
Yeah, 15th.
But of course, this news is not going to affect it in any way. They've compiled their numbers from the very first 2 weeks of the month of last. So that's how we're going to see how it play out. So we're going to keep the people updated. So I wish I can say good news for pump price of petrol.
And that's why I said,
but if it's
sustained,
because
ideally
immediate.
you should expect a reduction. In fact, some are saying it should
not
be
immediate.
around 900
not
at
immediate.
all. But you know, it's still very tricky. Between now and Friday is not just 5 days. It's a long time. And you never know. I mean, we're expecting that this deal will be signed officially on Friday, but you never know. And also
somebody could go rogue.
Hopefully not. But we've seen these things happen time and again. And for the Nigerian markets, you also expect that, hey, those who are doing business would always try to protect themselves. The customers or the consumers, the end users take all of the pressure eventually, right? So we'll just wait to see. But ideally, with this drop, the price of petrol should follow suit. Maybe 900 naira, maybe even less. You never know. But
no, but
that's what it should be.
what I'm saying is it cannot be immediate because the market is watching. The deal has not been signed. It's been agreed upon. We have 5 days to wait. People have already stopped and bought at the old price, which is on premium on everything. So they are going to wait for a while. So it's going to be gradual, like a creaming effect. It's going to be gradual until it's sustained, and then we can see. So I don't know what time. I don't want to give time and give hope when there is none, or give. I just want to avoid prediction.
And Jeffrey, recall where we're coming from amid this closure of the Strait of Hormuz and hostilities between the warring parties. We're coming from about $100, and you know, if we've been able to return to $80 per barrel now, I'm wondering why that has not impacted significantly on the price of petrol at home, because what we're buying for, what we experienced in the last 1 week was just an insignificant reduction of about 5 naira or about 10 naira in the pump price of petrol.
Is it about 15 naira also? I think they talk about, we went from 300 and something,
1,310
to
1,280 naira per liter.
Because the market, not defending the market, because I would like the price to go down.
That's why I said be careful.
Exactly,
It's a tight margin, high volume business. So,
Jeffrey, you come again with all those terminologies. Those terminologies seem to me like we're making excuses for the marketers. And I'm convinced that we cannot eliminate the factor of, you know, Shylock, those who cash in on this to make inordinate gain. We cannot rule that out.
No, I agree that
as a matter of fact, we must go into the books to determine what exactly it is sold to the you know, retailers, to the petrons of this world, as against what we are buying for. We will be surprised what details we come up with.
So what we cannot debate is that oil is priced globally. It's a global commodity. If it's $65, it's $65. You can choose to do whatever you want to do. Even in America, that has maybe almost 100 refineries, produces the highest, about 20 million barrels per day. Prices of, they call it gas there, went from maybe $2 to $3 to about $5 to $6, 100% increase, almost like ours as well. So these are people that have all the capacity therein because of how it's priced. I also argue, because I don't try to be a capitalist, that I try to be a hybrid of welfarism and capitalism, that if we have the yam and the knife, we can look for innovative ways. Because for America, for instance, their fundamentals are sorted. They have light, they have, well, at least predominantly, water, security, you know, all the things we battle with in addition to high cost of living. So I think we should be innovative as a country to know how to help our people. After all, Section 16 of our Constitution makes us look like a welfare state. But people like President Tinubu is a neoliberal, hardline, unrepentant capitalist. So, and for him, because the macroeconomic numbers are looking good and these governors are having a lot of money, it's about fiscal sustainability and tax revenue generation, maybe more than cost of living. He only empathizes with us that, I know you're suffering, but Oga, do something about the suffering. You have to wait. Yeah, but I think we move from there to security.
So
right?
we keep watching the situation in the Strait of Hormuz between Iran and the U.S., Israel still watching. I don't know if to say quiet.
Don't trust this thing at all.
Hey, I mean, after a while, you get used to this thing.
Yeah,
So
I
you don't.
I totally agree.
You don't put all your eggs in that basket. You keep your eggs. So we'll definitely let you know how things pan out. But let's also come back home and tell you about the security situation in Nigeria. First off, an update. The Defense Headquarters, that's a joint task force Northwest under Operation Fansanyama, has launched a major offensive operation, codenamed Operation Clean Sweep 3, targeting terrorists and bandits operating in the Matazo local government area and neighboring communities in Katsina State. And this development follows the death of retired Major General Rabe Abubakar, who was abducted alongside his wife by suspected terrorists and bandits in that area. He was abducted on May the 30th. We reported that where his vehicle was shown with bullet holes in the vehicle. His driver was said to have been dropped by the terrorists who kidnapped him after he had lost a lot of blood, and they took him and his wife into the bush, or wherever it is they operate from. Well, sadly, June the 13th, the Katsina state government confirmed that he died in captivity, and we're told that well, his body was put somewhere, and the government was told where to get the body from. Eventually, he was buried according to Islamic rite, and now the Defense Headquarters is saying that the operation commenced on June the 14th. That's yesterday, to locate and neutralize those responsible for the attack, dismantle criminal networks, and restore security across the affected communities. And it's a very sad day for the military, both serving and retired, because we're talking about a general here who was picked up just like that. Yes, retired, but picked up just like that with his wife and driver, and now he's dead. So there's a lot of mourning, there's anger, you can imagine, and there's that drive to get justice for him. It's a very terrible mix right here, but the DHQ is saying, well, we're trying to now get those responsible, and that leaves even more questions than answers. Bukola and Jeffrey.
Well, it's an all-time low in our fight against insecurity, and this has drawn outrage, from the public, online and on-site, about, how the troops were unable to rescue the armed forces, not just, troops of one garrison now. The armed forces in its entirety were unable to rescue one of their own, and questions are being asked about the safety of Nigerians. If a retired general, could not have been rescued, saved by the country that he served, over a period of time. And the details are not quite clear yet. Jeff, Kadi, you talked about how his body was put somewhere and then it was, retrieved by the Katsina state government. We must talk about the other side of the story as well. Online, there is an image that has not been verified that is reflecting, how the body was received. We're not quite sure if that is the case, but...
No, that's AI generated.
Yeah, we asked the Katsina state government to explain to us how his body was received. That is also an important part of the conversation that we must clarify at this particular point in time. If his body was received, why, could he not have been rescued if locations are known about where these bandits are? By the way, they also talk about how he may have died of health-related conditions while he was in captivity. And there are reports, denying that as well, that he never had those conditions that are being quoted, that he may have died of snake bite. So those are the issues that we need to, reflect amid this conversation at this particular point in time. His wife, by the way, is still in captivity. And so there are high expectations, maybe low expectations, if the retired general could have died in captivity, about whether or not his wife could be rescued. And it's still the same Katsina, we must talk about that as well, that fielded an exchange program with bandits just months down the line. And this goes to show that any form of negotiation with bandits often doesn't work. There are reports, even from Katsina residents themselves, that those communities where there were, amnesty deals or exchange programs with bandits have not worked because those bandits, those terrorists, we must call them what they are, have returned, to their old ways. These are people who are responsible for the killing and the maiming of Nigerians, who are responsible for, tragedy and sadness and anguish in homes. By the way, the Borno state government also just concluded, a program for repentant terrorists. And we wonder about the disposition of this administration, to terrorists and bandits. The program, from all indications, to all intents and purposes, doesn't work. Why should any form of, amnesty be put in place for people who are responsible, who are terrorizing this country? Do bandits know the forest areas of the owner of a land, of, a nation, a sovereign nation as Nigerians? We will continue to ask these questions until the administration comes through about why it has this it plays this lenient position, in its fight against terrorism and banditry. Recall the president's speech during the Democracy Day on June 12th, by the way, during which he says that crime has no ethnicity, and we must not, ascribe any form of ethnicity to criminality. It appears as if that is part of the problem. If any corridor at all can be open to allow bandits, terrorists to lay down their weapons instead of going after them, prosecuting them, and making them face the full weight of the law. Jeffrey.
Well said. There's nothing to add. Simply saying, when Nigeria is ready, we'll address our problem. We are not ready. When we're ready, we will. But we'll take a break. And when we come back, we'll look at what the dailies are leading with. Stay with us.